Welcome to Live Your Passion. I'm your host, Alex Stephen from Life Transforming Treasures. By sharing the wisdoms from my journey of raising a successful deaf child and making a life-altering decision, I empower people to transform their lives to one of freedom and fulfillment. On Live Your Passion, our guests share their challenges, how they embrace and overcame them. And hopefully, you could use some of their wisdoms to help you on your journey. I'm an author, speaker, and transformation coach. To further help you with this discussion, I have free resources on my website at alexstephen.com. This morning, my guest is Noah McIntyre, who will share his story and some of the challenges he went through, how he overcame them, and where he is today. Welcome, Noah. Such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be here. And I really appreciate all of the things that you've done in the world that helps it make it easier for other people to live their lives.
And that's what we both trying to do.
Yes.
And it's very gratifying.
Yes.
So I want to start off by asking you, we spoke a little bit about your story, very interesting. You know, in California, you were by yourself. And what I mean by that, your parents were on the East Coast here in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And life basically hit you with a curveball.
Yes.
You didn't know what was going on.
That's right.
Share with the audience what happened. Share with them that time.
Yes. And first of all, my appreciation for my family and my love for my parents is huge, particularly that given today, this week was 8 years ago when I got let go from my job. You see, I was in the middle of a big crisis and I didn't know it at the time. I was doing things like recklessly behaving at work. I was in the middle of California. I had moved out there with a vision and a dream, to be on the West Coast. I'd been thinking about it since I was a teenager. And all of a sudden, everything in my life started breaking down. I started spending money I didn't have, thousands of dollars on hotels, shopping sprees. I started being really nasty, like a real jerk to people, and I didn't know why. And I would discover, once I got brought back to the East Coast for treatment, that I was in the middle of a manic depressive episode. I was diagnosed bipolar. That winter, once I got moved back, my dad came out and saved me. He rescued me in the middle of this crisis. But it was one of the most trying times in my life because I had lost control over my brain and how it was working, how it was functioning.
But the thing is, you did not have any idea what was going on.
No, I had no idea what was going on in the midst of it. I was pretending to be people that I wasn't. I was posting strange things online. I had really kind of lost control of my sense of who I was, and there was moments where I would come back to moments of sanity in the midst of that. But overall, my energy was up and down, all the classic symptoms of a manic episode.
And your employers at the time didn't take the time to figure out what was wrong with you. They just terminated you?
Yeah, they had to let me go. And that was, a tricky situation because my behavior at work had become so bad. And there wasn't the support that was needed at the time, and I left my job. I got let go from my job, not quite knowing what had happened or how I had lost control of my behavior.
Yeah, at that time. And how did your friends in San Francisco at the time, how did they react before you even were diagnosed? What were their reaction?
Well, I showed up to Thanksgiving dinner that fall, 8 years ago, with my friends, having lavishly spent over $800 on cakes and wines, and they said, Noah, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. They knew something was wrong, but they didn't know how to talk to me about it. My roommates, I was living with a group of friends at the time, and many of them reached out and said, we don't know how to help you. Something's going on here. I couldn't even hear at the time. I was so in the midst of the mania that I couldn't even understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
Later, I would find out that they really went out of their way, but they didn't even know how to help me either.
Okay. And then your dad intercepted, so to speak.
Yeah, right around Christmas time in 2006,
Yeah.
my dad flew out and he came and helped me pack up my stuff. 14 boxes shipped back on UPS, and we were on a plane back to Cambridge, Boston, Mass, just the day after New Year's Day.
Day after New Year's
Yeah.
Day, so 2007.
Yeah, this was the beginning of 2007.
Wow. And tell the audience a little bit about that experience, your dad coming out. But when you came to Massachusetts, life started to change for you. You're taking a different course in terms of getting diagnosed and treated. So share a little bit about how that process worked.
Yeah, sure. So it really hit the fan that holiday season. My dad got wind that I needed help. Both my parents, my whole family did. And so I was fortunate to have two parents who were longtime mental health professionals and had access to resources back here in the Boston area. I was literally brought home, and before I even reached our family's home, I was brought into the office of my naturopathic doctor and then into the office of my psychiatrist and therapist. So I was brought into an outpatient treatment setting even before getting to my home, and made sure that I was put on treatment regimens to help balance out my brain's biochemistry right away. I didn't quite know what was happening, but I knew that I had been asking for help. I knew that I had, in the moments where my mind had settled down, that I had been asking for therapy. I had been asking for help. I'd been starting to ask for help, and I was starting to get it. Even though I was disoriented in the middle of the experience, we went right into a treatment situation, luckily.
Yeah, and that shows, as I hear you talk about your dad coming out and your mom being there for you and your relatives, it shows, the family love. They dropped everything and they came to your assistance, and it made a difference in your life. At that point, you needed that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the treatment, how that worked, and how how you managed to balance that chemistry, so to speak.
Sure. Well, I have to appreciate my parents, openly and publicly for that kind of passion and love that they showed. But it wasn't just my parents. I mean, I was able to get help from my best friend's mom. I was able to get help from my naturopathic doctor, my therapist. Friends and family kind of pulled together to kind of watch over me, because I was living at home at the time, and I was getting adjusted to certain medicines. So there would be times in the middle of the day I'd be sitting up and I'd fall asleep.
Okay.
And the effects of getting balanced, the brain biochemistry, getting balanced with certain certain medicines.
Yeah.
And so I was really I was not working, and I was able to really get that. There was one time I went to a farm in Vermont and just helped my friend's mom work on her farm as a way to kind of cool off.
Yeah.
There was times like that,
So it took you some time to really get that balance.
It took about 5 months.
5 months.
It took about 5 months, and I was able to start to settle down and start applying for work, which was the beginning of my new career in nutrition and health, in the middle of that time while I was balancing out my brain biochemistry.
Right. And that brought you onto a new path, so to speak. I know you said, it was like a gift.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, when your challenges come, you have to embrace it. This journey, life that we on, we have to embrace the good and the bad. It's our reaction to what happens to us that determines our destiny.
Yeah, and there was a moment when I got home, when I was brought into treatment, when I had that realization, oh my gosh, I'm being taken care of. And it's a chance to surrender to that.
Yes. And in talking to you, I know you keep saying it, you're grateful.
Yes.
It's gratitude. You have to be grateful. You have to live in gratitude and appreciate the people around you and the resources. And a lot of people, and I know people who is listening and looking at this show, may not have the same resources and support that you had. like your dad flying out to California.
Right.
You know, and the people will say, well, I never knew my dad. My dad abandoned me. But you have to reach out. You have to reach deep. It might be in a church, it might be some organization, a neighbor, but you have to reach out for help. In your case, you didn't even know you needed help.
Right. Well, there was a moment in California when I was starting to call around. I had a friend who I had worked with who said, you know, I used to be a mental health professional. It looks like you're starting to go through something.
Okay.
Please ask for help. Okay. I was starting to ask for help, but I was in the wrong place. You see, I wasn't surrounded. I had some friends and family out there, but I was, by the grace of God, able to come back to a place where the majority of my friends and family were able, that community support is key.
It is key.
And when you realize that you've lost control and then you come back like I did, there is a moment where there's a chance to be grateful. There's a chance to catch that little glimpse of gratitude and hold on to it for dear life. Because it's those moments of realizing, oh my gosh, I have my life back. And then building those moments that really has made a difference over the last 8 years.
So, you know, after 5-6 months of treatment, you got your balance.
Yeah.
You know, with bipolar imbalance, you try to balance your life and things, you know, put things in perspective. So tell us a little bit about how, you know, your life, the whole trajectory changed. You know, you had a new career. And something that you're passionate about.
Yes. Well, I started to, in my treatment, I started to learn about healthy fats. I started to learn about the nutrition benefits of omega-3. At first from my naturopathic doctor, and then in my career I started working at Whole Foods. And I started selling some of the very same natural fatty acids that were helping me with my treatment. And so learning about my own situation and how to take care of nutrition for myself to balance out my brain and body's biochemistry really then gave me the motivation. Not necessarily, you know, people come to Whole Foods, I can't be a doctor there, nor was I trained, but I was starting to engage with people about how they wanted to take responsibility for their health. And you know, it's interesting in our culture, there's a lot of shifting consciousness going on right now about how we take charge of our health. A lot of people come to the natural foods world to learn how to do that. And it was great to be engaged with a community of people who were looking to do that, and that kind of set me on my path.
That set you on your path. So from Whole Foods, you did further training because, you know, you got passionate about it because you saw the results in your own life and you wanted to help people who and I mean, talking about Whole Foods, I love when I go there and I meet somebody who know what they're talking about. They could give you some advice and guide you along. So I show you were a light to people who came to Whole Foods for that sort of direction.
Absolutely. And in the Whole Foods interactions, I was, you know, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes with busy people who are there. And I realized that some of the things I was recommending and some of the new perspective I was offering, read the labels, see if this works for you, you know, work with a team of health professionals and healers to figure that out, you know, be willing to experiment. Those brief conversations that I was having, Alex, I realized how much more of an impact I could make if I had the time and the space and the energy to go in more in depth, which led me to my training as a holistic health coach.
And you did that in New York?
Yes, through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I left Whole Foods 2 years ago, and I went back to school to get my certification in holistic health coaching and holistic health counseling.
So you know, you got the support of your parents and friends and family, and you were in gratitude for that. And you also took, you know, once you got that your balance back, so to speak, and you could manage it, you got training. You saw where you could give back, impacting people's lives by whatever, you know, you said you're not a doctor, but whatever knowledge you had from the results and experience you had, you were given back to people.
I had my own personal experience. And then I was given the opportunity within Whole Foods and then transitioning to my career as a holistic health coach to be exposed to nutrition science and education, starting at Whole Foods and then leading to my new career.
Leading to your new career. So you're coaching people now on nutrition,
yes,
health, and mental health and how to maintain, the balance. So that's great. So something good came out of that.
Yeah, very good.
Something good came out of it. And that's what you have to look for. You have to look for the good in every situation. Noah could have said, and just have a pity party, said, I'm not working no more. Why did this happen to me? And just, sit and self-destruct. But you decided to get training. You decided to give back. And in that giving back, now you're a speaker. You speak, and you just came back from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
This is something you didn't envision when you were in California, I don't think.
Well, it was interesting. My career in transformational education, I worked with a company called Landmark Worldwide, and I had been training in public speaking and leading workshops and coaching. But there was only a certain point where I reached that crisis point in my life where I had to step back and learn how to take care of my entire health. Not just my desire to give back, but my desire to receive the help that I needed. And to learn about nutrition and self-care. And coming through this process of learning that. And I do want to say, Alex, there are desperate moments. There are moments of desperation that lead to the inspiration that I discovered. Those moments of deep depression and deep loneliness and moving through that sense of despair and not quite knowing where you're going to go. And then finding these moments of inspiration and educating myself and reaching out to my community for help. Because there are other people who didn't have the grace, the gift of that moments of recovery that I was able to have. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is like, well, what do you say? And if you could do anything, get yourself in front of the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. That was one of the biggest things that made a difference that I learned from my teachers. Just in those moments when you can, tell yourself that you love yourself. Thank your body, thank your mind, thank the people in your life. That was huge in going through that process.
It's all gratitude. And from this process, your dad helped you, when you needed him the most. And then the tables turned. You had to be a caregiver for him. So share with the audience how this set you up and really train you so you could help him in his situation.
Yes, thank you. I have a huge amount of gratitude, as I've shared, for the situation and what I've learned. And right as I was leaving Whole Foods and embarking on my nutrition school journey, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so he's been dealing with the symptoms of Parkinson's now for the last 2 years. And I tell you, what it's like to lose control of your brain and your body's function, what I had gone through had prepared me in my own journey and my own healing to find that love inside for myself so that I could be there to take care of my dad, to help him walk up the stairs, to help him bathe. The tables were completely turned physically. And I had the privilege and the gift and the challenge of being at home with him as one of his primary caregivers. I have to acknowledge the partnership with my mother here because she and I were able to be there together taking care of him. But I'll tell you, it's nothing like a moment of being, looking up to your dad for your whole life. My dad was my hero. He still is. And he was very physically active. He was a marathon runner. He was a hiker. He was an adventurer. And to see his body function go down and for him to need my support to be able to do what he used to do was very challenging and very painful and very inspiring and helped us get a lot closer at the same time.
So I mean, that's great that you could have been there for him. And like you said, you were prepared in your journey to come now and help him. And with that, you helping other people now. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. You've been through this challenging time.
Sure.
You've been prepared. You're still helping your dad.
Yes.
And share with us some of the experiences that you went through with him. He had a practice of 43 years.
Yes.
Tell the audience, where he came from, what he was doing, and how you played the role in that transition to where he is now.
Sure. Well, my dad was a marriage and family therapist for over 40 years. And I had the most, difficult opportunity and pleasure of helping him close down his business. There was moments where I would put him to bed, I would get him in bed. But then I was also starting to do my own videos and my own blogging and my own social media to tell my story and find ways to give people lessons and benefits and tips. So there was moments where in the midst of all this change and all this transition, I would help him to and from his clients, and then I would put him to bed at night, and then I would go make a video about what I was learning about how you take care of your family and how you take care of your health in that situation.
Right.
So that was the transitioning point, was finding the gifts, finding the things to discover that could also benefit my clients, that could benefit the people who are watching my videos.
Right. But you said your dad transitioned, he closed his practice.
Yes.
He has Parkinson's disease.
Yes.
You all are helping him. He's dealing
Yes.
with it. But he hasn't really retired.
No,
he's still giving back.
That's right. He's still giving back. I want to paint a picture. When my dad went through a series of falls, and it was one of the scariest experiences of my life, and seeing him fall and seeing him get back. As he was going to the emergency room, he's sitting there. He's lying in the bed. I'm sitting next to him, and he looks up at me, and his whole body, he's getting stitches, and his whole body is starting to repair. And he looks up at me. He said, "Son, something good is going to come out of all this." And we started recording. He's a Buddhist, practicing Buddhist meditation teacher for also over 40 years.
Right.
And there was inspiring moments at the bedside where he would give a teaching or ask people to sit a particular kind of Tonglen meditation,
Right.
which is all about sending out good energy to people.
Right.
And he said, "Please have people sit this meditation so we can be together." I was able to post that recording that we made at the bedside, put it on the blog, and got messages through a Caring Bridge site from people all over the country who were starting to sit meditation virtually with him.
Right.
Now he's in assisted living, and he started his own meditation group right there, counseling and teaching people meditation.
Right. And in the midst of the Parkinson's disease,
Yes.
the disease does not have him.
No.
He's managing it, and he's still giving back, even though
Yeah.
he cannot go to his practice of over 40 years.
Right.
He's still giving back, and this is what we want people to hear, is that in the midst of these challenges, things that look tragic, you could triumph over them.
That's
and
right.
like you said, transform.
That's right.
And that's the whole idea. Nobody's saying it will be easy. It's not going to be easy, but it'll be worth it.
Absolutely.
And that's the message we want to send. And your dad is a living example of that. Even at his age, he's retired from his regular business, but he's still finding a way through the Parkinson's disease to still do something to impact lives. And that's so important.
It's so important. And one of the things sometimes with Parkinson's, one of the symptoms is your voice gets more quiet.
Right.
And so he's had to learn how to speak up.
Okay.
But because he's gotten more quiet, people sometimes gather around him now
To listen.
and they're more open and they're more present to receive what he has to say. And that's been a very powerful thing for me to witness for myself. In terms of helping him, there was moments where I had no choice but to just be there in the moment, being present. That's one of the most important lessons, is being present and asking for help and receiving the help from the closest, nearest, and dearest people in our lives. That's one of the most challenging things for an independent, adventurous man like him.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest gifts that I've been able to give to him, to say, ask for help. I asked for help. You gave me help. You can ask for help too. And us learning to do that together has been a huge lesson.
Huge lesson. And, it's that bonding too that you all have. True. I know you describe it as a gift. The disease that both of you got is a gift in bringing you together, looking at life differently, nutrition, helping. And I know you mentioned to me you didn't know you had that bravery and that strength and that humor to take care of your dad.
Yeah. Well, in the moment,
when
when I'm helping him use the facilities and bathe, and you lose balance or something happens, and the tables are turned, there is a kind of reaching into the depths of that energy in your heart, that feeling of love and courage that comes in those moments, which cannot be planned. And it comes from the challenge of being, here I am, be present. It's so easy. There was times Alex, when all of me wanted to just run away and like wish it all away and have the challenge go away. And it takes an incredible amount of bravery and love. But once I'm sitting there with my dad and we're just doing the things that need to be done, all that goes away, and all there is just being together.
Being together. And, Bob Marley, the famous reggae singer,
Yes.
I love his quote where he said, "You do not know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice."
That's right.
And when our back is up against a wall, that's when we get this inner strength. The adrenaline starts to flow.
Yes.
And I know from experience with our son, when we found out he was deaf at 1 year old, my wife and I said we have to do something. And we made the life-altering decision to leave everything and everyone behind in Trinidad and move to the United States. And we moved when he was 4 years old. It took time. It took research. But we saw people when we came to the United States in the summer learning vacation at Gallaudet University. We saw deaf doctors, deaf lawyers, deaf teachers, and we said, oh, our son could be one of those people.
Yes.
And today we share in that story that we took the risk. He had so many achievements. He's a college professor now. So I know that love from your dad. I know it because I had from my son. And I tell dads and parents who want to leave their special needs child that you could be giving away the best thing that God has given to you.
Yeah.
And one of my speeches is titled, "I will not trade him for the world." And that's what your dad did for you. And
That's
now,
right.
in such a short period of time, you are paying it back to him.
Yeah, it's a huge gift to be able to pay it back.
It's a huge
He's
gift.
given me such a great life. My mom and him have given me such an extraordinary quality of life.
Yeah.
And for those 2 years, for the last 2 years, what I've kept saying is, I'm here. I'm staying with you to make sure you have the most exquisite quality of life possible.
Right.
And finding ways to say I love you and thank you for giving me life and giving me the chance to give that back to you. That's like the core message that I wish for everybody.
And the thing, Noah, from your experience with your challenges and with your dad, and what I admire about you is that you are using this to help other people in your coaching, and as you help people with nutrition, and it's all come from your experience. And I love where you embrace it as a gift.
Yeah.
And you don't curse it. You embrace it as a gift. It's life. We have to enjoy the journey. It's not always going to be, as we expect it or perceive it, but we have to be grateful. We have to live, with forgiveness and
Yes.
move on. And that's what you and your dad doing.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming and sharing and, impacting lives. And is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience that we did not discuss?
I think the most important thing that we started to talk about, and we've been talking about through the show, is the importance of gratitude.
Right.
And to take it a step further is to actually say, I love you to yourself.
Right.
Actually say, I appreciate you to yourself. One of the most important things I've learned in this process that I've discovered is the things that we can practice on a daily basis to keep us connected to that gratitude. See, I make a video blog, I keep a journal, I actually express the gratitude. I go out of my way to tell people I appreciate them, and they appreciate me back. And it's like, I love being friendly, I love making friends, but there's a deep thing to stay connected to your soul in that process, to say the thank yous, to say the I love yous, to say the forgive yous. Those are like, that's the core, that's the juice
core.
of life.
That's the juice of life. And that's great. Any other nuggets you want to share or leave the audience with?
I would just say to really say thank you to your parents for the life that they've given you. That's one of the most important messages. And to engage in the journey. I'm Coach Noah, and so to engage in this journey, I'm going to keep sharing this story online. And I think it's important that we get out there and we share our stories with each other.
And so how could people get in touch with you, or what's your website so people could stay in touch with Coach Noah?
Sure. So it's CoachNoah.com is the nutrition, the home of Gratitude Nutrition, which is the name of my health coaching business. And on Facebook, Coach Noah is where I post all my videos and I engage in life-transforming conversations that we participate in with a global community all over the world.
Right. So that's great. Thanks for gracing us with your presence and your story.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to do on the show is read the quote of the day from
fantastic.
my Inspirational Life Quotes book, a collection for your daily motivation. And let's see what today is. And read today's quote. 12th. Today's quote is, "It isn't what you have or who you are or where you are or what you are doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It is what you think about." Dale Carnegie. So this is from my Inspirational Life Quotes book. And I want to share some of the other books I have. This is our latest books, IP Goals Made Easy. This is our granddaughter, Ravina, on the cover. My wife and I wrote this, and this is really for parents who have special needs children who needs an individual education plan. And it's well received. People saying, I wish they had this 30 years, 20 years ago. And this book just received an award 2 weeks ago in Orlando, Florida, with the Celebrity Educators, the Apple Award.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, thanks a lot. So this is the award, and this is our book, and our family story, Courage in Our Hearts, forward by Les Brown, and 4 of us wrote this, my wife, Raz, Larry, Charisma, and myself, and this is our family's love story, Courage in Our Hearts. All our books are on Amazon, and to go with Courage in Our Hearts, we have an action guide, Discover Your Inner Treasure, and again, this is Ravina here on the cover. So you could reach me, get in contact with me, get free resources at alexstephen.com. Again, thanks again, Noah, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yes. And thanks for being on Live Your Passion. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Production support provided by Medfield.tv. Access to our community.